You are now live with Dylan Kimlin.
Hello everyone, this is Dylan Kimlin and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's episode, the first one for 2026, by the way, welcome back everyone. Hopefully you had a lovely festive period and we can get back into the pickleball here in January. Our first episode for the year is going to be one, it's kind of a reoccurring theme. I do tend to do things, I've done this last year and I'm going to do it again this year, where we look at the ones to watch. So the players that are either trying to break into that pro scene, like really make their mark known, or players that are already in that pro scene that are potentially going to catapult into the top 5, top 7 players across the scene. Now, that top 5 ranking across both the NPL, MLPA, PPA as well can be really tricky. And I'm sure everyone at home has their own hierarchy, but I'm just going to look at a couple of players that I feel may potentially breach those top 5, top 7 players leading into 2026. Before we get started, you'll notice I'm starting with absolute blasphemy, sacrilege to get us going here for this year. For T-shirt time, I'm rocking my old PPA uniform and an NPL hat, which I feel, there's probably people at home gagging just the thought of wearing these two together. But I figured it's relevant considering a lot of our players are potentially going to play both leagues or both tournament formats for this year. And some of them I know, we've seen in the past players use one and then leapfrog into the other, vice versa, to try and benefit their own careers. And I'm all for it. I mean, I personally think it's ridiculous that our players can't play for both groups. But, I'm just one person whinging at the end of the day. Now, for T-shirt time, I do it across every episode. It's because I have so many uniforms across all the events that I covered. And speaking of which, I'm pretty much booked out for the entirety of 2026. So it's good to be in demand, and we'll be rocking the Salty Dinks gear across all of those events as well. Hashtag stay salty. So let's go into it. More or less, this is just going to be my predictions for who I feel will be breakout players for this year in the pro space for both male and female players. If you haven't yet, please like, share, and subscribe to the content. Social has been popping off as per usual, but also the YouTube channel continues to grow. And thank you for everyone getting behind us here on YouTube. Now, we're going to start with a duo that I feel, they were in my discussion piece for the most improved player for 2025, and both in the male and female categories, and that's the Dangs. So Sahil Dang and Ayesha Dang. If you haven't had a chance to watch these two play, please first of all go and follow them on socials. And everyone that I talked to about today, go and follow them on socials. Get behind them. We want to see our players continually get growth, and it may potentially help their revenue and their careers. So it's always a good thing. But I feel that the Dangs are, they're so close to just starting to dominate across all facets. Sahil Dang, I feel, has the right maturity. He's such a young player, but he's already got the mental fortitude, the mental know-how when it comes to dominating on the pickleball scene. Played in the NPL last season, and I thought he had an absolutely terrific season. He had experience, taking over captaincy, ended up leading a side himself, and individually, he is a phenomenal player. He's easily one of the rising stars of the singles space, but I feel his doubles game is getting really good as well. Definitely a strong start here for our ones to watch this year. Additionally, his sister Ayesha, she finished off her season with the NPL winning a MVP for Victoria. So she was deemed the number 1 player in Victoria. And I feel that just kind of gives you a bit of an idea of her, where her trajectory as well. These two as a mixed duo, I got to cover, and ironically, considering the hat, I got to cover them, or not cover them, but watch their match in Kooyong for the NPL, where they took on Katie Hart and Jason Taylor. Those two, arguably some of the best in the business when it comes to Australian pickleball. And they ended up losing that match, but they pushed them. And more importantly, at the end of the match, both the Dangs sat back and they asked questions to these two pros. Hey, what can we do to get better? And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to the maturity of these two individuals. I feel that they are really exciting prospects for the Australian pickleball scene. and we will no doubt see them start to dominate, leading heavier into the 2026 season. Additionally, on the topic of men's pickleball, my next pick, I'm doing pretty much 3 male to 3 female players, and then we're going to look at juniors and masters as well. Now, for the males last year, I said, the likes of Nicky Mao, Josh Nipris, Matt Kuznetsov, they were kind of my big 3 that I predicted to do really well. And I feel that all 3 had a phenomenal year. So usually I'm pretty on the money when it comes to this. But my next male pick may actually surprise you. And that's because it's someone who's a bona fide superstar. However, he doesn't play much. And it's Vuk Velicevic. Now, the big concussion, that's what we called him in the green zone with Ash Williams. He doesn't mind being the villain. Vuk has made it abundantly clear. He just doesn't care what people think. He will gladly go out and play however he wants. And I've commentated with him in pickleball, and I've also had pretty lengthy chats to him. He's a very analytical person. The way he sees the game is such a high level. And obviously he represented Australia in paddle last year. He is such a high-level athlete in multiple sports, and I do find his Instagram tag quite funny in that he's listed himself as the number 1 pickleball player in the world as well. So, good on him. But Vuk is one that, if he took pickleball seriously, like, it's not within the realm of craziness that he gets in that top 3 consideration. He's a freak. There's no other way of putting it. He just plays outrageously. We saw all the Perth memes in the Kooyong event, but he is one that I'd really like to see take pickleball a bit more seriously in 2026. We know he's a gun at paddle already, but Vuk, if you're watching, mate, get into more pickleball tournaments, mate. You are very entertaining to cover. Let's put it that way. My third male pick is another one that some of you may find surprising because he is also a bona fide superstar, and that is Harrison Brown. So I talked about players that I expect to either try and push into that top pro scene, someone like Sahil. Harrison is someone that I feel he's already the number 1 male singles player in Australia. Tom Evans and him had such a good little rivalry there, but Tom, we're not too sure what's going on with him and Helena. I hope they're doing well, but we don't know when we'll see them on our courts again. For Harrison, I feel he is now at the point where can he start to dominate in the doubles formats in tournaments? He's a terrific captain. We've seen that. He took the Outback to victory. But if you were to go and ask just people that really pay attention to the pro space, would they deem Harrison in the top 5 in Australia for men's? It's really tough. The men's space is so difficult. You've got the likes of like Joey George, you got Mitch Hargraves, Zach Grabovic, Rob Sterling. You've got all of these absolute guns. And it's like, geez, I could rattle off at least another 10 names easily. And I'm sure you at home could as well. Where does Harrison fit in that? Because he's a gun singles player, but whereas, he's doubles. I think Harrison, because we're right now, at time of recording, is overdoing really well in Asia. I would love to see Harrison start to dominate in doubles and really start to become a bona fide all-star. And I think he's got the tools to do it. He's so mature on court. He has such a good mentality. It doesn't get caught up with any of the drama. In fact, I've got a picture up here on screen of him taking on Vuk Velicevic in Kooyong. Unfortunately, Harrison had some injury concerns in that match. But that I just wanted to bring up is like one of the best photos of 2025. It's just so cool when the MPL boys just continue to provide pretty outrageous social media content. But Harrison, he's already had his success as a captain. He's a terrific player all round. Will we see him crack that top 5, potentially top 3 in 2026? Going on to the ladies side of things, I've already mentioned Aisha Dang, but my other 2 women are ones that are in that conversation of they are already good, but will they start to crack that top 5, top 7 women's? Now, the top 5 in women's is also very difficult if you think about it. You've got the likes of, Townsend Schmidt, you've got Van Rieck, Dikasavjevic, Burr, Dennehy, Dalabona. Like, I could keep on going through. Taruya, Hayat. Like, there's just so many good players in the women's space. It's really hard to crack that top 10. And for me, I think this is the year that we see Crystal Mildwater start to dominate. I talked about mentality, and you'll notice I'm talking about it a lot throughout these picks. It's because they have the professional mentality. They get in, they're very disciplined. Harrison Brown, Sahil Dang, Aisha Dang immediately come to mind with this. Vuk doesn't mind a bit of nonsense, but he is also incredibly locked in when it comes to game time. Crystal is probably, besides Jason Taylor, Crystal is probably the most disciplined player I've seen in pickleball. She is no nonsense. I've heard it from her coaching staff. She just is so focused. It's so incredibly disciplined. Now, she did have some injury concerns last year. Hopefully, she's feeling good leading into 2026, because I genuinely believe, we had so much conversation on the topic of Taya Cross, for example, for 2025. Crystal is, if we think about the rise of Andy Dikasavovich, where she burst on the scene, did really, really well, and now she's just a bona fide superstar, potentially looking at, she keeps doing what she's doing 3 to 4 years from now, she's in a Hall of Fame discussion. I think Crystal is following the same footsteps as Andy. And I would love to see, very similar to Harrison Brown, Crystal, I think, she's at that level. Can she push into that top 5 caliber? Well, that is my question for 2026. She's already had elite experience with the NPL and the MLPA, showing the photos here. And I feel she's got the tools to do it. She's got the discipline to do it. And she's already had experience with victory. The time is now for Crystal to really leapfrog into just being a bona fide superstar. My third and final pick for the ladies for the pro space is someone who also had success in 2025, but she was more of a wing woman, if you will, like someone who second fiddle, a elite second fiddle, I might add, in someone that, she played in teams at an incredibly high clip, and that is Kat Westbury. Now, Kat Westbury had a terrific season. Well, I thought she had an elite season with the Roos with the NPL earlier on in the year, to then go on and play with Bondi alongside Rose Van Reek. So she's had experience with 2 teams with strong female, people to play with, and because she did play with Kat Vallos as well in the NPL, and obviously Rose Van Reek's one of the best in the business. So I feel that the time is now for Kat to become that lead player. She might be comfortable playing second fiddle. I mean, when you're playing with someone of like Van Reek's caliber, fair enough. But I do feel that Kat Westbury is someone who is also on a launch pad, ready to dive in and really start to dominate and have people talk to her in the same conversation as some of the ladies I've already mentioned. So time will tell with how these players will pan out. Now, we can talk about the juniors. Now, I do feel that juniors pickleball in Australia, I'm not going to put up pictures because obviously privacy reasons. I've worked alongside media with juniors for such a long time. It's just safe for everyone if I just don't put anything up. I'm going to put up rankings from the Pickleball Australia rankings from last year to give you something to look at instead of my ugly head. Now, first thing off the bat I want to mention is Luther Ferris. Now, Lockie Donnelly is at the top of the picture there. I don't really consider Lockie a junior. He's been playing for that long now that he should be starting to do really well in the Opens. Now, for Luther, by all accounts, everyone I talk to loves this kid. Like, everyone wants him to succeed. He has phenomenal coaching staff. He is constantly doing drills. Like, as someone who's a bit of a traditionalist, like I'm someone who is constantly out doing drills, wanting to be playing non-stop back when I played baseball, etc. He's someone that's like after my own heart. Like, I love seeing players do that, especially young players. So for Luther, I feel, there's a lot of people that really want him to succeed. And I feel like the time's now. He's had a full year of basically training and playing tournaments, getting experience. Luther Ferris is definitely one that I feel 2026 could be his year. Or we might start to see him dominate the charts. And hopefully, I really hope he starts to get more opportunities with the leagues. I just hope someone gives him a crack, because I feel, we saw, and I know there's a bit of a different age difference here, but like people gave the likes of Lucas Pascoe and Ollie Gray a chance. They gave the chances to like Nicholas Skuman, Hamish Bartos, these younger players that are really, really good. And I feel that Luther, he just needs a chance, I would love to see him start to play in these higher level events and start to have some successes. Additionally, Oliver Novich is on that list. I'm a bit biased. I worked at Redcliffe. I got a lot of time for the Noviches, and Ollie is one who I've seen him firsthand. It depends if he wants to take tennis seriously or pickleball seriously. If he took pickleball seriously, he would be, one of the best. He's just so incredibly disciplined. His dad, Chris, is such an incredible coach as well. So that's an interesting one regarding whether young Ollie Novich will start to really start to dive into playing more events and whether he's allowed to. I guess it comes down to whether he's playing this or tennis. Now, for the ladies' side of things, it does get very interesting in that the junior female space, I feel, is low-key really strong. We're starting to see like genuine superstars starting to form. Now, I mentioned some of the young women earlier, the likes of Skuman, who came out, and like Nicola's now, she's easily in that top 5 consideration in Australian women's. I feel that some of these players are, they're not too far off starting to build some momentum. I've said it for a long time. The Heather Pereira's, they will be women's doubles champion at some point. Both Indy and Irie, I got so much time for these two girls. They just go about it the right way. They have an incredible community behind them, and they seem really humble. They're just there to play pickle and try and play really well. Left-handed, right-handed combo, absolutely outrageous. These two are, if you haven't yet, if you're at a tournament, you need to watch these young women play. They are so incredibly gifted, and it just excites me to think how their careers are going to continue to grow. The trajectory for a lot of these players is very high. Now, on the topic of the women, I'm putting this up, and I know Fallon will be watching this, hating it because they've gone and Pickleball Australia have gone and got her name wrong. Obviously, I've got a lot of time for Fallon and Sophie. Sophie Mason, and I'm going to bring up the Sophies because there's 2 Sophies that we need to talk about. Sophie Mason from Redcliffe, I feel, I've had a chat to her as of late, a little bit of a while ago now, but she was incredibly focused for 2026. Now, it'll depend whether she goes through with that or not, but Sophie, I feel, once again, has a community right behind her. I feel that Sophie is definitely one. Her and Fallon, low-key, have a little bit of a rivalry with Indy and Irie, and I love it. I think it's good for pickleball. I imagine they're all friendly with each other off the court, but that is a women's doubles little rivalry brewing that I feel you just got to love it. It's just great to see these young players really starting to take pickleball super seriously. The other Sophie I want to bring up is one that's not on our lists, and it's Sophie Hawkes from New Zealand. Now, I've had the pleasure of watching this young player play in New Zealand, and I believe she came to APC as well. She is like the definition of talent. She has, I talked to her mum in New Zealand. I don't believe she has a tennis background, but her shots are exquisite. Her double-handed backhand's like Summer de la Bonna's. Like, it's outrageous. I believe, and I could be wrong with the names here, but I think it's like she gets coaching from like Perry Collins and Winyata and those guys from New Zealand, well-known names, and seems like they're really disciplined with her. So I'm someone who's always trying to advocate for the New Zealand pickleball scene. I definitely feel, they just have so many awesome players coming up through the ranks, and she has the potential to become like the next best player from New Zealand. Like, we've obviously got the likes of like Jay Grewal, Connor Robertshaw immediately come to mind, but if she continues, like what I mentioned with some of these other ladies, the trajectory for these young players, Sophie Hawkes is definitely one on that list. And I would love to see her represent like the Hustle or the Stars later on down the line. So captain's definitely one to watch if you haven't yet. Finally, we've got Angie McLean. So obviously the McLean name is a very well-known name across Australian pickleball. And Angie's another person who I believe, is it Tina Bianchi? That's her coach, if memory serves me right. One of the best coaches in the country. Obviously is another player. I haven't had too much of a conversation with Angie, but I hope, 2026 is going to be very positive for her. I love seeing these players from other states coming across and really pushing these Queenslanders, because a lot of the players we've just mentioned do come from the Queensland space. So another player there in Angie McLean. Now, Masters. Oh boy. Let's talk about Masters. There are two names I'm about to bring up that if you are a Masters player, they should absolutely petrify you. The first one is David Richardson. Now, this man has achieved so much in Australian pickleball. It is, it's crazy. So Dave Richardson, bona fide superstar, one of the most beloved figures in Australian pickleball, has had success in multiple facets. He captained the Caterpillars with the NPL, won one of the seasons there. He's also very recently captained the Brisbane Breakers Challenger side with the Major League Pickleball Australia. Had success there. Dave is, if I ask the question, who's like the most loved person in the Australian pickleball scene, a couple of names immediately come to mind. People like Vin and Arn from Queensland. Who else? Tony Morgan, New South Wales. He's pretty well loved. There's all these people I could definitely start to like rattle through as my head's, I'm just thinking about Don from Tasmania. There's all these people that just continue to pop up. Dave Richardson, I think, him and like Nay Pink or someone in Queensland, he'd be close. I don't know anyone that dislikes Dave Richardson. He is such a good guy. And he is incredible on the court. So a lot of you might not know this, viewers, and I'm going old school here. But Dave Richardson and Sumi Rajpal had a very long run of dominating men's doubles way back. So he's led that, a lot of experience in tournament play, to then leading teams as a captain to the point of dominating, Challenger and NPL. I believe he played, did he play season 1 with the Breakers or maybe Melbourne Mavericks? I believe he did play Major League Premier too, like way back in the day. If you're a Masters player and you're going up against Dave Richardson, you got to pull it all out on the court. The fact that this man, it's like not even, I don't even know how it's fair that he's allowed, but he's allowed. He's now eligible for Masters. So good luck, because he is definitely a scary one to consider. Now, there's another person coming into Masters that you should all be petrified of, and it is Ellen McDonough. So the superstar from like playing in the Queensland scene, representing South Africa, to the point that literally is third in the Duper rankings for Africa, which is pretty hilarious. Ellen is a bona fide superstar. She's played in both the NPL, the MLPA Challenger division, and NPL Div 2, if memory serves me right. She's done it all. She has one of the hardest serves in the Australian pickleball scene, is a incredibly gifted player in both doubles, and she's pretty solid in singles too. She probably would talk down her singles play, but I don't think she's too bad. Another one that's in the Masters category, I feel that she would be incredibly strong in a lot of events. I imagine, MLPA Masters, she would get locked up immediately if she decided to go for it, of course. So it will be very interesting to see how our current Masters players are going to, dive into all of this. But that is a pretty terrifying prospect of David Richardson and Ellen McDonough joining the fray for the Masters. Now, 35s suddenly becomes one of the, I mean, it's already been such a tough contested division as is, but there's a bunch of like really high level players. I'm not going to name them because they're probably going to be like, ooh, Dylan, I'm getting old. But 35s this year is going to be very interesting as well. So we won't put up any pictures to embarrass some of our players. But I feel this year is going to be very exciting. And we've got so many players that are coming up throughout the ranks that are just going to be bona fide superstars. Will we see those players crack the top 3, top 5, top 7? And will we see the players really start to make a name for themselves within the pro space? I really hope so. I genuinely believe our players do have a lot of, they just have a lot of potential. And it's really exciting. This is a good thing for Australian pickleball that we are having these discussions. Let me know in the comments who you feel is someone that I might have missed. Obviously, there's a lot of names that immediately come to mind, but I'm trying to keep this like we're 25 minutes in already, and there's about 30 other people I could mention. So I'm trying to keep this as small as possible. But as always, if you haven't yet, please like, share, and subscribe. Give your opinions. Who do you think's someone that we need to watch for 2026? I'm going to be very interested in seeing what everyone reckons. And obviously, during the live streams, we'll see how it all pans out. This is Dylan Kimblin. Thank you for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.